There's a lie repeated in almost every piece of manifestation content out there. And it's not malicious, it's just incomplete. You were told that thinking positive is enough, that visualizing the outcome, writing it down, repeating affirmations in the mirror every morning, that's the formula. And you did it. Maybe you're doing it right now, and still, something isn't adding up. Because here's what nobody told you. Two people can do the exact same ritual, the same visualization, the same affirmation, the same gratitude journal, and get completely different results. One sees synchronicities line up within weeks. The other keeps waiting, year after year, feeling like they did everything right while the universe simply didn't respond. The difference between those two people isn't what they think. It's something far deeper, far more physical, and far more measurable than any popular manifestation theory has ever admitted. It's in the state they're broadcasting. Not the thought, the state. And that state has an electrical signature, a literal one, measurable in a lab, recorded on graphs, studied for decades in heart-brain research. There's an organ inside your body that generates an electromagnetic field up to 100 times stronger than your brain's. And right now, it could be quietly sabotaging everything you're trying to attract, without you having the slightest awareness of it. I'm going to show you exactly which organ that is, why it's the real key to manifestation, and, most importantly, how to flip that switch in your favor starting today. The name for this is inner coherence. And before you write it off as another vague spiritual buzzword with no substance, let me be direct. Coherence isn't a metaphor. It's a real physiological state, one that can be measured, recorded, and reproduced. Inner coherence is the alignment between three layers that usually run disconnected inside you. What you think, what you feel, and what your body is physically doing while all of that happens. When those three layers sync up, your nervous system shifts into a completely different operating pattern, more stable, more ordered, more predictable. Scientists measure this through something called heart rate variability, or HRV. It's not how many times your heart beats per minute that matters here. It's the rhythm between one beat and the next. When you're stressed, frustrated, or anxious, that rhythm becomes erratic and disorganized, like a heart monitor spiking all over the place. When you're in a genuine state of coherence, that same rhythm smooths out into a steady, almost wave-like pattern. Think calm ocean swells instead of a storm surge. And here's the part that changes everything. The universe, or the quantum field, or the organizing intelligence behind reality, whatever framework resonates with you, doesn't respond to isolated wishes. It responds to consistent, vibrational patterns. One positive thought shouted over a sea of internal physiological chaos is like whispering an intention in the middle of a hurricane. The message gets lost in the noise. But here's the real, uncomfortable problem. Heart-brain research suggests most people walk around day to day in a state that looks calm on the surface, smiling, working, socializing like normal, while running underneath an almost constant state of physiological disorganization. That state has a name, and it's the #1 reason any attempt to align with the reality you want fails silently, without the person ever understanding why. I'm going to break down exactly what that state is, and why it derails any manifestation process before it even gets started. To understand why this happens, you need to know something cardiac neuroscience has confirmed for over 30 years. Yet most people still overlook. Your heart isn't just a pump. It has its own independent nervous system, sophisticated enough that researchers actually call it the little brain in the heart, a network of more than 40,000 neurons capable of sensing, processing, and even making decisions independently of the brain in your head. And it goes further. The communication between heart and brain isn't a one-way street. Most of the neural traffic actually travels from the heart up to the brain, not the other way around. That means the state of your heart directly shapes how your brain processes emotion, memory, and even decision-making. Now here's where this connects to the physics side of manifestation. The heart generates the strongest electromagnetic field produced anywhere in the human body. Research from cardiac neuroscience labs shows this field can be detected by sensitive equipment several feet away from the body, radiating outward from you constantly, even when you're not speaking, acting, or consciously deciding anything. That's a profound thing to sit with. Your heart is right now broadcasting a frequency out into the environment around you. Before you say a word, before you make a single decision, before any affirmation you repeat in the mirror. Some researchers and practitioners call this the invitational frequency, the signal that leaves you first, ahead of any words, and appears to pull back experiences and people that resonate with that same pattern. And this is exactly where the problem almost nobody notices lies, because there's a way this signal gets hijacked, quietly contaminated day after day, and most people are doing it right now without the slightest clue. I'm going to show you exactly how that hijacking happens, because recognizing it is the first step to breaking free of it. Quick pause here. If this is already clicking for you, this is the moment to hit subscribe. This channel is where science and spirituality meet without the fluff, and we drop content like this every week, unpacking what's actually running the show behind manifestation. And while you're at it, drop a comment below. Had you ever heard that the heart has its own electromagnetic field before this? I want to know if this is brand new information for you, or if you've felt this in practice your whole life, without knowing the science behind it. This is the most uncomfortable part of this video, and also the most liberating. Inner incoherence rarely looks like a crisis. It doesn't show up as an obvious panic attack or a visible emotional breakdown. Most of the time it disguises itself as normal, as routine, as this is just adulting. It shows up as that low-grade background anxiety that stays switched on even when there's no clear reason for it. That nagging sense that something's about to go wrong, even in your calmest moments. It shows up as the automatic inner critic, that mental commentary correcting, judging, or shrinking every small thing you do. So constant, you've stopped even noticing it's there. And it shows up, maybe most sneakily of all, as survival mode dressed up as productivity. That state of always doing, always fixing, always one step ahead of a breakdown that never quite arrives but never quite resolves either. The problem is none of these patterns look on the surface incompatible with doing everything right. You can be meditating every morning, journaling affirmations, eating clean, and still be carrying all day long that physiological background noise that never fully powers down. And that noise is exactly what blocks synchronicities from showing up. Because your heart's electromagnetic field, when it's operating under chronic incoherence, sends out a fragmented, unstable, contradictory signal, like a radio station broadcasting through static. Even if the content of the message is, I want abundance, I want alignment, I want clarity. The way that message is being transmitted is corrupted by the background noise. If you feel like you're doing everything right, practicing, visualizing, putting in the effort, and still nothing seems to truly align, the problem was never the content of your thoughts. It's a frequency running in the background, 24/7, quietly sabotaging the signal before it ever leaves you. The good news is there's a way to identify this state in under 60 seconds, with zero equipment, using nothing but attention to your own body. And that's exactly what we're breaking down next. Spotting incoherence is simple once you know what to look for. Close your eyes for a moment and notice without judgment the sensation in your chest. Is it tight, contracted, racing in an irregular way? Or is it steady, open, flowing in a rhythm that doesn't feel forced? That one simple check usually reveals, right away, which of the two states you've been living in. Now here's the actual turning point. The mechanism that lets you consciously shift from a state of incoherence into a state of genuine coherence, rather than just a temporary feeling of calm. Cardiac neuroscience researchers, including teams at institutions like the HeartMath Institute, have identified a specific process capable of reorganizing your heart rhythm from chaotic to coherent in a matter of minutes. It involves two combined elements, not just one in isolation, which explains why so many common relaxation techniques fail to produce lasting change. The first element is rhythmic, heart-focused breathing, inhaling and exhaling in a smooth, steady rhythm, roughly 5 to 6 seconds per phase, consciously imagining the breath moving in and out through the chest, as if your heart itself were breathing. That simple shift in focus from head to heart already starts measurably changing your heart rhythm. The second element, even more important, is activating a genuine regenerative emotion while that breathing happens. Gratitude, appreciation, or sincere care for someone or something, actually felt in the body, not just thought about as a concept. It's this combination of breath rhythm and genuine emotion that produces the coherent heart pattern. Something breathing alone, without the emotional component, simply cannot generate. That alone is powerful. But there's a detail almost nobody mentions when teaching this kind of technique. And it's the detail that separates people who feel a momentary sense of relief from people who build a real, lasting transformation. Doing this process on its own, without one more piece, produces temporary coherence. A good state that lasts a few minutes or hours, then dissolves right back into the old pattern the second life gets busy again. There's one element that turns that fleeting coherence into permanent, sustained coherence. The kind that becomes part of who you are, instead of just something you do every once in a while. And that's the exact element almost nobody teaches, which we're about to reveal. The missing piece is identity. Here's the perspective shift that changes everything. Coherence doesn't hold up through technique alone. Breath plus emotion, mechanically repeated every day. It holds up through the identity you're operating from while you practice. There's a real difference between someone breathing deeply while trying to reach a state of peace they don't have yet, and someone breathing deeply from an identity that's already coherent at its core. This connects directly to a central principle from quantum observation physics, often quoted and often oversimplified in manifestation content. The observer influences what's being observed, but the real deeper application of that principle isn't whatever you focus on expands. It's more precise and honestly more demanding than that. You don't attract what you want. You attract who you are in the exact moment you're broadcasting the signal. That means the central question stops being, what do I want to manifest? And becomes, who am I being right now while my heart broadcasts this frequency into the field around me? If you're practicing coherence trying to get something you're lacking, you're still on some level broadcasting the frequency of lack. But if you're practicing coherence from the identity of someone who already lives in alignment, even if you're still building that version of yourself, the signal changes in nature completely. That shift changes how any future manifestation practice should be approached from here on out. It's no longer about repeating a technique and waiting for an outside result. It's about embodying, with every breath, the identity of someone who's coherent at the core. And there's a specific sequence, used consistently by people who manifest quickly and sustainably, not just once in a while, that ties together in a single process the three elements we've covered so far: breath, genuine emotion, and anchored identity. That sequence is what I'm handing you next, step by step. This is where everything you've learned so far turns into a concrete practice you can use today in under 5 minutes. Step 1. Power down the head, power up the heart. Close your eyes. Bring all of your attention to your chest, as if you had a second brain sitting right there. Because as we covered, you actually do. Let any racing mental chatter simply lower in intensity for a few seconds, without forcing anything. Step 2. Rhythmic coherence breathing. Inhale slowly for a count of 5, imagining the breath moving directly into the center of your chest. Hold briefly. Exhale for a count of 5, imagining the breath leaving through that same point. Repeat this cycle 5 to 10 times, keeping the rhythm steady and unhurried. Step 3. Activate genuine emotion. While breathing, bring to mind a real memory of gratitude or genuine appreciation. A person, a moment, or even the simple feeling of being alive right now. What matters is feeling that emotion in your body, not just thinking it as an abstract idea. Let that feeling spread through your chest with every breath. Step 4. Anchor your identity. This is the step most people skip, and it's the one that makes all the difference. While feeling the gratitude, affirm internally with conviction, not as a plea, but as a statement of fact, something like, I am someone who lives in alignment. This state is who I am, not just something I do. Repeat that phrase or your own version of it 2 or 3 times, letting each word land alongside the breath and the emotion. Step 5. Seal the state before you move on. Before opening your eyes and stepping back into your day, stay in that combined state for a few more seconds. Calm breath, genuine emotion, identity affirmed. This is the moment the signal you're broadcasting into the field actually gets reorganized. Practice consistently. This protocol has the potential to gradually reprogram your nervous system's default setting, moving you out of chronic incoherence and into a state where coherence slowly becomes your new baseline, instead of just a one-off moment of calm. But there's one single thing that can make this entire protocol completely fail, something almost nobody checks before they start practicing. And that's exactly the final detail I'm about to reveal, because it changes everything. Here's the detail that can quietly tank the whole process. Doing this protocol once, expecting a final, immediate result, and then dropping it the moment everyday life demands your attention again. Because the simplest, and at the same time deepest, truth about inner coherence is this: it's not a one-time event. It's not a switch that once flipped stays on forever. It's actually a lot more like a muscle, one that only gets stronger through repeated practice and that weakens again the moment you stop training it. Which means consistency beats intensity. 5 genuine minutes a day will reshape your baseline in a way that one intense session, done once a month, never will. That becomes permanent isn't the kind you chase in moments of desperation. It's the kind you build patiently, as part of your routine, until it stops being a technique you practice and simply becomes who you are. Remember how we opened this video? That organ inside you, broadcasting an electromagnetic field 100 times stronger than your brain's, sending a frequency out into the world before you even open your mouth. Now you know exactly what to do with that information. You don't have to wait around hoping the universe hears your isolated wishes anymore. You simply have to become the frequency that already matches the reality you want to live in. That's the real secret to aligning your reality faster. Not thinking differently, but broadcasting differently. Not wanting harder, but showing up more coherent. If this landed for you, there's a natural next step in this journey, because spotting your incoherence and running the protocol is just the beginning. Here's the open question we'll answer in the next video. What happens when the coherence you're building runs into old patterns and deeper beliefs trying to pull you right back into your old state? And how do you protect your alignment when that happens? Subscribe so you don't miss that one, and let me know in the comments. Which of the patterns we talked about today, the background anxiety, the automatic inner critic, or survival mode dressed up as productivity, hit closest to home for you? Your answer might be exactly what helps someone else watching realize they're not alone, and that there's a way out.